Hey guys, this is DFS Chan. I'm here to talk about the LCK spring split preview, and then tonight's LCK LPL 4-game slate for DFS purposes. Happy New Year to you guys. For those of you who have not seen the LPL preview, power rankings, and tier list, please go check it out if you're interested. But yeah, so I'm here to talk about the LCK as the LCK spring split is starting tonight. Yeah, so as you can see, let's dive in right here. As you can see on the screen, I believe I'm sharing the screen. Yes. This is a tweet that I posted earlier, but I spent the last couple of days looking over the rosters and roster changes, coaching changes, and how those changes, would likely impact these teams' chances in finishing in the top half or bottom half. And depending on that, I have, projected their tiers as to, what kind of tiers they belong to, I think, in my opinion. So obviously these will be different than, compared to some other people power rankings. So feel free to leave any comments and share any thoughts that you may have on Twitter or in the Discord channel. So for the S tier, I only have T1. T1, actually, the only person that left. Let me pull this up real quick. T1. The only person that left the team is not there anymore from last season is Canna. Canna's not there anymore. Now Zeus from not the academy level. Zeus, kind of played with the T1 A team as well last season here and there. But Canna obviously was the one that started the majority of the games for T1. But Zeus is no joke. According to rumors in the LCK teams, Zeus is actually really, really good. And apparently in the scrims that Zeus has been playing really well. So it's not like they're gonna have a huge fall off from Canna to Zeus in the top lane. So I really do think T1, having kept owner, Faker, Gumayushi, and then Keria, four of which players that started and played in the Worlds tournament last season. And then having Zeus starting, I don't think not much competition level is going to fall off for T1. I think they're probably going to be the best team in my opinion coming into the spring split, as I'll explain why that is the case with Damwon Kia, probably in the A tier that I put in. Yeah, so but yeah, I love T1 this year. As you probably know, that T1 is on the slate for tonight, which I'll talk about, but obviously I like T1 to play well this split. And then in the A tier, I have Damwon Kia, as mentioned, and then Genji. And Damwon Kia, as you'll see here on the list, rosters, let me pull it up real quick. They kept Canyon in the jungle and Showmaker in the mid lane. Obviously, those two are probably the best players. And then maybe Khan in the top lane were probably the top three best players, in my opinion, for Damwon Kia. But Khan had to go serve in the military for his obligation as a Korean citizen. So now they only have Canyon and Showmaker from last season. But Hoya is not bad, and Birdall, he's coming from Genji. Hoya is not that bad, and Dukdam and Killen coming as a duo bottom lane from Nongshim last season. They were very solid. I do think they are probably about the same, if not better, than Ghost and Beryl from last season. Ghost really struggled to make a difference for that team, and Beryl is a solid presence, but his competition level kind of fell off toward the Worlds, in my opinion, last season compared to 2 years ago. So I do think this is going to be an upgrade. slight upgrade for me, I think. And then in the top lane is probably what I'm a little concerned about. Have uncertainties in Hoya or Birdall. I don't know who's going to start, but they're still nonetheless good with Cannon and Showmaker. And then I believe I have Genji. Genji made the biggest offseason moves. They spent a lot of money to bring in Chovy in the mid lane, and then Peanut in jungle from Nongshim, and then Chovy from Hanwha Life, like I said. And then Doran from DRX, I believe. And then Ruler is there, and then Lahans, I believe, from DRX, I believe. But either way, Peanut and Chovy, I mean, they should carry. And then Ruler, obviously, he was the carry for that team, in my opinion, for Genji, other than BDD and Klid in the jungle and mid lane last season. But now that BDD and Klid are gone, but now they have Peanut and Chovy, I do think Ruler will benefit from this. I do think for DFS purposes in the future, I'll mention this when Genji's on the slate, Ruler used to dominate the kill share percentage. He would get a lot of kills for that team when BDD and Klid were there. But now with Peanut and Chovy, who are aggressive, more aggressive than Klid and BDD, in my opinion. So I do think for DFS purposes, that's going to hurt Ruler. I don't think the kill share percentage will be, I do think it will be more distributed across the roster. Even Doran, I mean, compared to like Birdall or Rascal, I do think Doran is more of an aggressive jungler, top laner. So I do think it's going to be spread out for DFS purposes. But overall, as a team, I mean, projecting how they're going to do, I mean, this roster is sick. So I do think they have the potential to get into the S tier, just like Damwon Kia as well. But I'll just have to see in the first couple of weeks to see how they mesh. And I do think they're going to need some time to gel as well. And then in the B tier, I have Nongshim, Red Force, and DRX. I'll go over those real quick. Nongshim, Red Force, like I said, they lost a lot of players, but at the same time, they filled with some decent caliber players. Kana coming over from T1, and then Dread from Africa, BDD, is Africa or DRX? I forgot. But BDD from Genji, and then Ghost from Damwon Kia, and then Effort for Sandbox. So I do think this is a pretty solid team. I do think they're gonna need some time to kind of play together and spend some time together. I am not a huge believer in BDD. I know he had a really good season, especially in the Worlds, and then like toward the end of the summer split. But Ghost, I feel like I think we will see that this team or about the bottom lane will struggle a lot more than expected, because I do think Damwon Kia having Showmaker and having Khan and Canyon kind of masked Ghost's some deficiencies. I do think Effort is really good. He had a really good season for Sandbox last season. So I do think Effort's presence will help Ghost, but I'm not a huge believer in this bottom lane. And then Kana is obviously good. So I do think this is kind of like boom or bust situation. I do think their potential is really good. So I do think they can maybe get into the A tier by the end of the year. But right now, I just put them in the B tier. And then DRX, let me pull their roster up. DRX, I love DRX as a dark horse. I do think a lot of people will count them out or have them rated as like one of the bottom tier teams. But just based on the acquisitions, like Zika in the mid lane from the LPL now. Well, he is of a Korean nationality, but he used to play in the LPL. But now he's back in Korea, in the LCK playing, and then Theft, I think was a big acquisition in my opinion. And then Barrel, as long as he meshes with Theft, which I think just based on his play style and Theft's play style, I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic to watch and monitor throughout maybe the first month or so. Because I think Deft is more of like a conservative laner, in my opinion. So we'll see how that pans out. But I love DRX's potential to finish in maybe top 4, top 3. I do think they're going to make the playoffs, unlike maybe some other other DFS or League of Legends experts. I just love DRX's roster changes here. I do think Pyoshik, Kingen, and Zika is a very solid top half of the map. And then I think as long as Deft and Barrel kind of play together for a while, I think they're going to come alive. And yeah, I do think DRX is probably going to be the team that I'm going to pick to kind of upset a lot of teams, and then maybe finish in top 5 by the end of the year. They're my dark horse. So that's why I have them in the B tier. And then the next tier is C, Guangdong Freaks, I believe. Africa Freaks got rebranded to Guangdong Freaks, I believe. And then I have Lpl-Lck Sandbox in the C tier. So let me pull them up real quick right here. That is KT, that's not it. There it is. Guangdong Freaks. Keen's still there. Elam from T1 and Fate from Lpl-Lck Sandbox, and Teddy and Hoyt. So Teddy will likely start, I think. I think for DFS purposes, I'm expecting Teddy to start, but there is a good chance that Leo could start or sub in. And then same for the support position between Hoyt and Mapsy. So I do like the roster, but I just have some question marks in the jungle. I think Elam's pretty good, but I just feel like him being on T1 masked some of his deficiencies. And then Fate had a really good season for Lpl-Lck Sandbox, but I do think his playstyle does not really mesh well with Elam's, in my opinion. And then Teddy is good. You know, he used to start for T1 until Gumayushi came alive. But now Teddy has found a good spot. But support position, I'm not a huge believer in any of these two players. So we'll see how the team plays out. But some question marks, probably in the jungle and then support position. Keen's really good though. And then Lpl-Lck Sandbox, I'll pull him up here. Dove is moving from the mid lane to the top lane, which I think will help him a lot. And it doesn't really matter as much, in my opinion, these days in the current meta as to what kind of champions that you play between mid and top lane at this stage. And then Croco in the jungle, I like them a lot. I like him a lot. And then Closer, who used to play for T1, is now here starting by himself. He has no competition, so he should start, obviously. And then Ice and Envy, this is a very big question mark, I think. Is there a game tonight I think there is. Yes, Guangdong Freak Sandbox. Yep, Sandbox is playing tonight. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this will be interesting to see who starts. If I had to guess right now, it would be Ice, but for no particular reason. But yeah, this bottom lane is a big question mark, so we'll see what happens there. But I do like Dove, Croco, and Closer, so that's why I have them here in the C tier instead of like a D or F. So, you know, as long as the bottom lane holds up their bargain, I think they're going to be decent. And then Freddy Breon, KT Rollster, and Hanwha Life. I'm not a huge believer in these teams. I'll quickly go over their roster and see why, and show you why I don't like them. Freddy Breon, obviously, if you play DFS in League of Legends last season, Freddy Breon pulled off a lot of upsets, but even when they did not score well in terms of DK or fantasy points. But they obviously ruined your chances if you pick the other team that's playing against Breon. So Breon pulled off a lot of big upsets, but they still had a lot of deficiencies as a team and as individual players who lack some talent. But this offseason, they did not address any of those deficiencies, in my opinion. I mean, still they have Lava, Henna Delight. I mean, same players from last season, and then Sword in the top lane, which I'm not too impressed, or Morgan from Hanwha Life. So I feel like this is probably one of the bottom 3-tier type of talent. I do think they have a good team synergy probably now that they have one whole year under their belt. But I just feel like they just didn't make enough moves to get better. So we'll see, how that pans out. And then KT Rollster is another team that I have as bottom 3. Rascal from Gen G is now and starting in the top lane for KT Rollster. Cuz from T1. Area from LJL, the Japanese league. He played really well for DFM in the Worlds tournament. He is of Korean citizen, so there's not a language barrier, unlike most foreigners that play in these regions. And then aiming and then life. So I think this is a decent combination of players. Rascal and Life coming over from Gen G. I'm not hugely impressed with those 2 players. And then Area was good for DFM, but in the Japanese league, which is a tier below the Korean league or the Chinese league. Yeah, so we'll see how he fares against elite mid laners in Korea. And then aiming is decent and cut. So I mean, there's not like a particular player that even stands out in my opinion. And these are new players, so I think they're some hurdles that they'll have to overcome before they can produce some wins for that team. And then the bottom tier is Hanwha Life. Chovy is not there anymore. And as you can see, Dudu's still there. On Fleek came over and Willer's still there. Karis and Sam D and Vista. I think this is kind of just like maybe a year where Hanwha Life as a company, Hanwha is a big company, corporation in Korea. And I've heard rumors where they're just going to forego this whole season without spending that much money being invested. They're just going to run a season with the, lackluster rosters, in my opinion. So I do think the expectations are very low, as evidenced by the roster that they kind of put together. So I do think this is a very weak roster. So we'll see what happens. Sam D, as you guys may know from the LPL, but he's not the best AD carry in my opinion. So that's all I have for the power rankings. And then let's dive into let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any other thoughts or concerns, or if you guys totally disagree, let me know as well. So, but let's dive into the actual slate for tonight. 4-game slate, first ever 2022 LCK LPL hybrid 4-game slate. So let's dive into the LCK since I have those up right here. DRX versus Sandbox. I'll just refer to my power rankings when I talk about these. DRX, like I said, I am a huge believer in them to improve their standings this split compared to last split. I like their roster a lot. I do think they need some time to gel, but I think they're going to figure it out. And then Sandbox, I have them a tier below. So I do think DRX is going to win. I like DRX a lot, but early in the season, anything can happen, right? So I do think Sandbox makes for a good GPP play. I do think historically DRX has played slow, but with the new roster, I just don't know. So let me I'll pull up the combined kills per minute stuff at the end to kind of give you guys how historically these teams have fared in terms of like bloodiness for DFS purposes. Obviously, that's very important to score well if you are stacking players from certain teams that you think will win. So yeah, I do think the RX will win, but I do think Sandbox could win, could pull off an upset, just given that this is the first game for both teams with new rosters. So we'll see what happens. T1 obviously should win. Their roster is really good against Guangdong Freaks. I think Guangdong Freaks is like I said, mid-tier team. I do think they're gonna need some time to figure things out as they have new players. So I do favor T1 quite a bit. And as you guys know, T1 is notoriously known for scoring very low in their games. So we'll see what happens there. I do think combined kills per minute will tell me the same things, but we'll see at the end of this video. LPL 2 games, Rare Atom versus Top Esports. I mentioned this the other day on the last video. Rare Atom is probably the second most consistent team other than EDG in the LPL from last season. I do think they have a clear identity now with still with Leanne and iBoy on that team, on that roster. But Top Esports with Tian and Jungle, I didn't think they would look good, but then in the preseason tournament, they proved me very wrong. I believe they won the whole Demacia Cup. Let me check real quick. Demacia Cup 2022 or maybe 21. So yeah, Top Esports won the whole thing as mentioned. They looked really good. They started the players, I believe, that would start today. So let me confirm that. Zoom, Tian, Knight, Jackie Love, and Juwo. Let's pull up the confirmed starters. Zoom, Tian, Knight, Jackie Love, Juwo. So yeah, I love it. I think it will be bloody. Rare Atom has historically played on the slower side, so their combined kills per minute is on the lower side. But Top Esports likes to play bloody, so I do think this game will score well in general. Yeah, I don't really know much about Strive in the mid lane for Rare Atom, so I think that's an interesting question mark, because Zika, as mentioned earlier, now in the LCK, used to play for Rare Atom. He was good. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. And then Zora is new too. So Strive and Zora are new, going up against Knight and Juwo. So I do have to favor Top Esports. Ultra Prime versus LNG. LNG added Doinby in the mid lane. They have Tarzan and Doinby. Doinby is obviously fluent in both Korean and Chinese languages. So I do think there's not going to be any language barrier issues. And Ale obviously is a monster, and Light is still there. And then Lu Mao is now playing for LNG from JDG. So I do like this roster, and I feel like the core pieces did not change. I think Icon, who started for LNG, not there anymore, but I feel like Doinby is a huge upgrade for them. And Doinby is a very smart player who probably will learn how to adapt very quickly for the LNG. LNG has also historically played very slow on the slower side. Their combined kills per minute was low. And I feel like with Lumao as well, he does not engage. He only engages in smart fights, which kind of naturally lowers the potential kill upside for these teams, for this team. So I do think this is going to be probably a lower combined kills per minute matchup compared to Top Esports game. And let's look at Ultra Prime here. Ultra Prime is a big underdog, about the same underdog, same level of underdog as Rare Atom. But I have, looks like Crying is now there starting for UP Ultra Prime, coming from RNG, and then Hacker starting, same VS, and Elk is starting, and Shoutsy's still there. So Elk is used to play for WE, I believe, but he's there now. So this is a very interesting roster. I do think Crying is more like a conservative / supporting mid laner, and that's not very in sync with the current meta. For Crying, it really worked out on RNG because he didn't really have to be able to be that aggressor. He played a lot of support champions on RNG, where Xiaohu and then Gala and Wei played a lot of carry champions, so Crying was more of a supporting player. But here on Ultra Prime, I don't know if that's gonna hold up well because they don't really have those aggressive players. I know Hacker used to be a very aggressive jungler for OMG, but now that UP last season, he didn't really play that way. And then Elk is not. Elk is good. I think he's a very solid AD carry, but he's not like a playmaker where Gala, used to be, or Gala is. So I do have to favor LNG here, but like I said, I think this matchup between Ultra Prime and LNG is gonna have a lower combined kills per minute and be less bloody compared to the Rare Atom and Top Esports game, in my opinion. So lastly, let's look at the combined kills per minute historically for these teams, maybe last season, as to what that meant. Well, first I can look at the Demacia Cup that happened this preseason. That's the most recent preseason tournament that they played in. So let's see. LNG, Rare Atom, Top Esports, and Ultra Prime. I think that's it. Rare Atom, Top Esports, Ultra Prime, and LNG. Okay. So combined kills per minute in the preseason Demacia Cup. Oh, wow. LNG played really fast. And then Top Esports played fast, like I mentioned. Ultra Prime played on the faster side. Rare Atom played the slowest. And let's see who they started, if they kind of correspond with the same players who are starting today. So let's first look at the top one, LNG. LNG, where are you? Okay, yeah, they started. Is that who they started? Unless this is just showing the current roster for each team. I want to check something out real quick. Just to make sure that, just to give you guys the accurate data, I just wanted to see if LNG actually started Doing B and such. LNG right here. Yeah, Doing B started. They lost to FunPlus Phoenix, who, the other day had a really good game, but came up short against EDG, I believe. So yeah, so this is interesting. Ale, Tarzan, Doinby, Light. Wow. Yeah, so they actually had all 5 players that are starting today that actually they played in the Demacia Cup. And yeah, 1.14, holy shit. All right. So I may have to reevaluate, but LNG gets a huge upgrade and the bloodiness potentially. So I'll make a mental note on that. And they played really well. So looks like they played in the semifinals, it appears. Yeah, so LNG is going to be good. I'm pretty confident that LNG is going to win, depending on how Ultra Prime fared. So let's look at Top Esports, who also played fast and bloody in the preseason Demacia Cup. Let me see if they started the same players. Zoom, Tian, Nightjack, Lovejoy. I believe they did. Let me see. I think maybe we just talked about that. Zoom, Tian, Night. Yeah. So they started all exact same 5 players. Let's see how they did. Obviously, they won the whole thing. I told you. Repeating myself, I apologize. But yeah, they should get a big upgrade as well, and they should score well, in my opinion, depending on how the opponents are and their play style. So let's look at Ultra Prime, who played the next fastest. Ultra Prime. ZS, Hacker, Ally started, Hacker, Crying, Elk, and Shoutsy. Okay, so except for the top lane, the same 4 players are starting, and let's see how they did. Ultra Prime. they won their group, I believe. Yeah. And they beat anyone's legend who looked really good today. But they lost 3-0 to FPX. I like them, maybe as a potential GPP play. Yeah. First game for both teams, anything can happen. And looks like they're a more bloody team than Rare Atom, right? So I do think between Ultra Prime and Rare Atom, I think Ultra Prime makes a better GPP play, just given the higher kill upside. Especially because LNG has been playing fast with that new roster. Okay, let's look at Rare Atom's roster. Right here, Cube, Junja. Oh, Cube, Lian is starting instead of Junja. Strive started, and iBoy and Zor. Okay, so except for the jungler, they are starting the same players that played in the Demacia Cup. Let's look at how they did. Rare Atom, they went 2-2. Wow, that's pretty bad in the preseason cup because they play against some scrub teams in that tournament. So that is an interesting one. So unless they had a whole revamp, they started Junja. Junja is not that bad, so I'm surprised. Lian's good. I do think it will probably improve their chances from Junja because Cube and iBoy are used to playing with Lian rather than Junja. So I do think team synergy will be better with Lian at jungle. But Top Esports has been playing really well. So I think Top Esports will probably win. So I do think, so given all of that, I do think, like I said, Ultra Prime makes a better GPP play compared to Rare Atom today. And then, yeah, so I do think both LPL games should be kind of bloody depending on who wins. But in the LCK, like I said, I think DRX should win, T1 should win. And then I do think this is a hard one because DRX and T1 both finished with a lower, generally, combined kills per minute in the regular split last season. I do think Sandbox used to play faster, higher kill upside. So yeah, I do think DRX game will be more bloody if you have to compare two LCK games. But maybe tonight's another night where you just play who you think will win both LPL games and stack players from those teams. But anyway, so that's all I got for you guys today. I know this was a longer video than usual, but I just wanted to kind of cover everything and I kind of take you through as to how my process looks and what my model is like. And obviously I'm gonna, use my model later tonight to memorialize and take notes as to what will likely happen. And so yeah, if you like my videos, this is done through the company called True DFS. So if you can see below, if you want to please like the video, that'd be great. Give a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel. That would help us a lot. Yeah, so if you have any questions or if you just want to talk league, I know I've been getting a lot of messages on Twitter. I'm always on, if I'm awake, I'll respond to you right away. So just let me know. Yeah, shoot me a message if you just want to talk about something or kind of just talk through your lineup building for DFS purposes. Yeah, so I'll be interested in that as well. So hope you guys have a happy new year and I'll see you probably in the next video in a couple days. Thanks.